in Vaishnavism, specifically in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, there is the Triprasthan, right? The Triprasthan, or the three, the framework of three truths. So, which is, where do you go if you have to ascertain something in the context of spirituality, right? So, the three books that support this Triprasthan is the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, Bhagavad Gita is the words spoken by Krishna. The Bhagavatam is the words spoken about Krishna. And Chaitanya Charitamrita is the words spoken about Krishna in his most merciful incarnation as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in the Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is essentially a collection of it's a collection of pastimes. Chaitanya Charitamrita is biographical. It is the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. And Bhagavatam as a Puran is the pastimes of personalities related to Krishna. And the reason these pastimes are given, one of the reasons, many reasons, but one of the reasons is that they help us identify the qualities of those who are dear to Krishna. And conversely, avoid the qualities of those who are not dear to Krishna. So Bhagavad Gita is more instructive. Krishna gives specific instructions over there. Man mana bhav mad bhakto madhyachi mam namaskaru. Right? He says, do this, offer obeisances unto me. Patram putram palam toya yome bhakte prashat. That you offer me, one who offers me a leaf, flower, water. So in a condensed way, Krishna gives instructions, and the Bhagavatam expands on those instructions in terms of illustrating personalities who are following those instructions. Now, how do such people interact with others? What happens to them? In what circumstances? What are the qualities that they manifest? So, as practicing devotees, the core of our practice is to be able to identify and imbibe those qualities in us. Now, those qualities, it's not that we say that from today I will be this, but it becomes more of a meditation. That I will be more charitable, I will be more compassionate. So it becomes more of a meditation. So today, with your blessings and permission, I wanted to talk about one quality that is important amongst devotees, which is acceptance. So, as in anything, if you are going to discuss about something, it's good to define it properly first, and maybe we can start off by seeing what you think about it. What do you think acceptance means?
Seeing somebody else's viewpoint that might be different from yours.
Seeing somebody else's viewpoint that may be different from yours. Okay, it's very good. Thank you. What else?
Seeing something. Go ahead. Seeing something which is kind of God's desire.
Seeing something that is God's desires. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Seema?
Seeing something and without being judgmental about it.
Seeing something without being judgmental. Okay. Thank you. So,
Being compassionate.
being compassionate. Very good. Piyali, you want to say something?
I think everybody else has
Everybody
covered
else
it.
Okay. Fine.
Anything that you wanted to say?
Yes.
Accepting as things are happening, whether it's kind of positive or negative, accept everything.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Very good. Thank you. So I think so. What we see is that acceptance is multifaceted. Like Prabhu has said, talking about accepting situations. So there will be situations that are favorable or unfavorable. Ability to accept them without being unduly agitated. I think a lot of what was said was in terms of accepting perspectives. That somebody may agree or disagree with you, and you accept that. And part of it was accepting people. The person may be one way or the other, and you accept the person. Let's see a little bit about what is the equivalent of accepting in Sanskrit. Because in Sanskrit we see that words tend to carry more gravitas in them. They also bear a fair amount of they carry more weightage in terms of the meaning also. So there are two words that come close to accepting. One is svikar. Right. So kara is a verb. It means to do, and svi means yourself. So svikar means is to do something as if it's yourself. Taking away the differences between you and the other person. Another word that is also used for accepting is santushta. So tushti means happiness and peace, and san means everybody. Right. So santushti or santushti is kind of what is the result of acceptance, which is universal peace, universal harmony. Let's take one step further and see that what is not accepting. So if you were to come up with an antonym, what is antonym? Like Paryavachi and
व्यतिरेक
huh?
व्यतिरेक शब्द और व्यतिरेकवाची
Okay. So the opposite of synonyms, right? Antonyms. So of acceptance. What would be some words that you would consider as a person who's not able to demonstrate the quality of acceptance?
Intolerant.
Intolerant.
Rejection.
Rejection. Rigid, inflexible.
Judgmental.
Who's the? So I think judgmental comes as closest to be the antonym of accepting. And again, the words, because we are trying to sometimes words they don't do justice to what we want to describe, right? So contextually, somebody can say the antonym of accepting is rejecting, and they would be right there, right? But at least in the context that we are trying to speak about, opposite of accepting is being judgmental. And the root of being judgmental is thinking that my perspective, my point of view is right and yours is not. And by the way, not only am I right, I am also better than you. that's where the basis of being judgmental comes. So we can talk about, to illustrate it, we can talk about a few pastimes from the Bhagavatam that demonstrate this quality of accepting and rejecting. What is some pastime that would come to your mind from Bhagavatam in this context?
Recently I was hearing Bhagavatam Chitraketu accepted the curse by Mother Parvati.
Very good. So that's accepting a situation. Right. One aspect of the acceptance is Parishad Maharaj also, right? He was cursed by Shringi.
Can you repeat what Ramkata said, because for the benefit of
Yeah, so he said that in the 6th canto, there is Chitraketu who was cursed by Parvati Devi. And even though he was not fully at fault, maybe some fault, but not enough to be cursed to become a demon. And even though he had the capability to reverse the curse, but he accepted it. And he says, it is same thing with Parishad Maharaj. He was cursed by the Brahman boy, and then he was a Raj Rishi, a great devotee. He had the ability to reverse the curse, but he gracefully accepted it. Okay, I'll die in 7 days. Make the most of it, right? So these are qualities of great personalities, by instances of great personalities who accepted a situation. Now, in one pastime where we see the more specific case of accepting a person or a perspective is that of Prahlad Maharaj. So, and Prahlad Maharaj's pastime everybody knows. How that transpires. 5-year-old boy being victimized by his father. But then let's see the difference in how. So the situation is the same for both of them. There's a difference of opinion. There is Hiranyakashipu who thinks that his son is wrong, and there is Prahlad Maharaj who thinks that his father is wrong. So for some time we can suspend our opinion who is right, who is wrong. Let's look at it, the fact that there are two persons who are disagreeing. But when we look into the situation, the difference is that Prahlad Maharaj accepted the difference of opinion in his father. So if you look at the pastime, Prahlad Maharaj never preaches to his father. He never goes and says, my dear father, you should become a devotee. You should start chant. He does that to his friends in the Gurukul. To them he's preaching very strongly that your life is being wasted and etc. etc. To them he is a different person. But to his father, he is polite, he is submissive, he is courteous, he is respectful, and he is answering all the questions that his father is asking. But Hiranyakashipu's perspective is different. His perspective is that you should agree with what I am saying. That if you do not agree with what I am saying, then I will kill you. It's a little extreme case of not accepting, but the quality is there. Right? So between the two, we see that Prahlad Maharaj attracts the mercy of Krishna and his devotees, and Hiranyakashipu does not. Also, we see that as the pastime is unfolding, who is the one who is more agitated by the whole thing? It is Hiranyakashipu. Prahlad is peaceful. Right? He's not. We see in the Bhagavatam how Hiranyakashipu is pacing up and down, and he's in anxiety, he's angry, he's cursing him, etc. We don't see Prahlad Maharaj pacing up and down. We don't see him having sleepless nights. He's in a very peaceful state. That is the advantage of accepting. And Hiranyakashipu is the disadvantage of not accepting. Now, if you look at it a little bit deeper, then we also see what are the subtle nuances of accepting. Now, accepting does not mean that you give up your own views. So, Prahlad Maharaj at no point gave up his conception. Right? He was firmly anchored in the conception that Krishna is the personality of Godhead, the purpose of life is to surrender to Him, the tenets of bhakti. He was firmly rooted in that. So even though he was demonstrating all the qualities of submissiveness, being respectful, he never gave up his own perspective. So accepting means accepting the difference. Right? Accepting does not mean surrendering. Accepting does not even mean condoning. Right? It does not mean that, okay, I accept you're a thief, so it's okay for you to steal. Right? Even it does not even mean that. But what accepting means is that I understand that there are differences. Now, between a person who is able to accept and not able to accept, what do you think is the difference in their framework or in their psyche? What drives a person to be like Prahlad and what drives a person to be like Hiranyakashipu?
Surrender.
Surrender to whom?
Supreme.
To whom?
To Supreme.
Surrender to Supreme. Okay. That's kind of a catch-all answer. It answers almost all the questions. It's very difficult to say yes or no to that. It's like, anything you say, chant Hare Krishna, and then, that's probably, that's a period at the sentence. You're absolutely right. But I was looking for something more
Ego?
pragmatic.
Detached.
Is it ego?
Very good, very good. So that's the difference, right? Hiranyakashipu was very much attached to being right. He was not very much attached to what that right was. Because if you remember that the points that Prahlad was making to Hiranyakashipu was making the same points. To whom? Do you know to whom was he making the same points?
Himself.
Himself.
To himself.
To whom?
His mother
To his mother. When?
and his brother dies.
When his brother died, right? So when Varadev killed Hiranyaksha and Diti was in distress, then Hiranyakashipu is preaching to Diti that this whole life, he's not glorifying Lord Vishnu, but he's preaching these points that Prahlad Maharaj was saying, that everything in this life is ephemeral and the body is destined to be destroyed, the soul is eternal. All those, it almost looks like he's come from a Bhagavad Gita class and he's, regurgitating those points. So he's not so much in disagreement with what Prahlad Maharaj is saying. Because what was Prahlad Maharaj saying? That Lord Vishnu is the greatest. What was the basis of all the austerities that Hiranyakashipu did? To take revenge from Lord Vishnu. And why was he doing all these austerities? Because Lord Vishnu is the greatest. When he went to Shukracharya, he said, yes, Lord Vishnu is the greatest. He said, okay, he's the greatest. How do I become like him? I said, okay, you do all these austerities. So his premise was the same as the conclusion of Prahlad Maharaj. So the nature of ego is that it does not concern itself too much about what is right or what is wrong. Right? It concerns more about I am right and you are wrong. Like they say, there are three kinds of debates. There is the Vaad, then there is the Jalpa, and then there is the Vitanda. And then the Vaad is one in which the debate is meant for enlightening. It's meant for discussing philosophical topics. And then Jalpa is debate in which one makes points to prove one's own perspective. Right? And Vitanda is when one makes points to disprove the other person. The first is in the mode of goodness, the second is in passion, and the third is in ignorance. So in the third kind, the main focus is that I would like to reject your perspective. I don't have any perspective. I just want to reject your perspective. So the nature of acceptance is that it is cultivated on the soil of humility. Okay? And the nature of the opposite of acceptance is that ego it nourishes the lack of acceptance. Let's look at another pastime from the Bhagavatam, the Dhruva Maharaj pastime. Right? Now, the genesis of Dhruva Maharaj's pastime is the rejection of Dhruva. Who rejected Dhruva?
His stepmom.
The stepmother was means to an end. His father rejected, right? King Udanpa, he rejected. Right? If Suruchi had said that you cannot sit on your father's lap, and then Udanpa would have still said, come and sit on the lap, it would have been, Dhruva would have been happier about it. Right? So the root of that pastime was the rejection of Dhruva by his father. Now, the response to that rejection was rejection by Dhruva. So what was his sankalp earlier on when his father rejected him? What did he want to do? He wanted
to have the empire bigger than his father, grandfather, and great.
Yeah. So he was like, my father is proud of his throne, so I will have a kingdom bigger than my father. And he's a 5-year-old boy, so it's like not only my father but my father's father, right? So his father is Swayambhavu Manu, and he said, why stop at my father's father? At my father's father's kingdom, right? So he's like, I want a kingdom bigger than mine. And that's, when kids become angry, they're like, you are bad, your father is bad, your father's father is bad. As far as they can go, they go. So that was Dhruva's mentality at that time, right? Well, my father's father, my father's father kingdom, I'll have bigger than that. And that is what fueled his anger and his rage. And ultimately, Narad Muni appeared, and he converted a situation that could. Now Dhruva, by the force, despite the fact that he was a child, he was an exceptional personality. How many children can leave their house, head into the forest, and perform the kind of austerities that he did in the Bhagavatam? It said he performed 6 months of austerities. In some of the other Puranas, it said that he performed 36,000 years of austerities. Some Puranas, it is said he performed 3,000 years of austerities. So, Kalpabhed, depending on the day of Brahma. But one way or the other, to perform severe austerities. He could have done anything. If he wanted, he could have actually acquired more powers than his father, gone back and displaced his father from the throne and done all that. But what changed the situation was the presence of a devotee. And when Narad Muni came, then he changed the situation. Now, again, Narad Muni is an expert preacher. He didn't say he did say that, but he didn't stress on that. Now just give up your anger, go home and play with your toys. Right. He said that once and Dhruva said, no, I'm convinced what I want to do. And so then he guides him to the path of bhakti. He says, okay, if you want a kingdom greater than your great grandfather, you take this mantra and then you chant it and then you will get what you want. But the process of chanting that mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, the process of performing devotional service changed the conception of Dhruva Maharaj from rejection to acceptance. That's the potency of bhakti. So like Prabhu said that the cause of the obstacle in acceptance is ego, and the impact of bhakti is that it takes away ego. So when there is no water in the root, how will the tree flourish at that time? So then the tree that is producing so many kinds of poisonous plants, fruits, being judgmental, unforgiving, sins, all being nourished by the water of ego. And when that is withheld by the power of bhakti, then one does not have to go individually to clip the roots, to clip the fruits, because the roots are now stopped. Now, when we take to the process of devotion, it's a gradual process. Right? It's not a switch that you chant Hare Krishna and the switch turns on and voila, you're something else. It's a process that takes days, months, years, lifetimes. It's hopefully not lifetimes, but it's a process that takes time. So as a result of that, what happens is that many conceptions that we have in the material, from the material perspective, are also carried over into our spiritual endeavors. Right? So this acceptance and being judgmental, which are essentially material conceptions, also become a part of our spiritual practice. Right? So again, since we are all practicing devotees, wanted to turn the needle a little bit more over to this notion of acceptance and judgmental for practicing devotees. Right? So, and again, this is a discussion. So, if there is, what from your point of view is this in the realm of practicing devotees, acceptance and not acceptance? How does it manifest?
Krishna Prabhuji, I was listening to a class this afternoon where they're talking about a similar topic but with a little bit of a nuance that you may accept sometimes externally but internally you are still the same. And I'm talking more from a practicing perspective. You can, just to please you, I can say, yes Prabhu, I'll do it, but deep inside me I'm still rejecting the thought. And then he was extrapolating that further on the conditioning of heart, that how that thought, he was taking his own example, that how that flinched his heart and he was not happy, but then when he accepted it truly in the next episode, so to say, and we have talked about the heart of a devotee being as soft as butter. So that point just came to my mind, that there's always a fine line between acceptance and being judgmental, and then how it manifests in the life of a devotee.
Has anybody experienced one of the two, acceptance, judgmental?
Sorry, what
Only me then.
was the question?
Has anybody experienced double-edged sword for acceptance?
Acceptance
As-
and judgment.
And being judgmental.
And
Or
judgment.
being
Both.
Or being
Or,
judged.
yeah.
Judged.
Yeah.
Experienced. I mean, we experience every minute, I feel.
I know.
Okay, thank you. Now you
Because
got it.
every thought, every action I make, 10 judgments go. Because everybody is looking from a different,
perspective.
yeah, and usually it's a little judgmental perspective.
Yeah.
And I wish I had a very simple example, but I don't.
Sure. Well, thank you for sharing. Yeah.
So Prabhu, like I'm just giving an example because you asked for an example, like in the workplace, you know, we become, it's very easy to become judgmental about somebody without being very, you know, thinking about fair, especially like, you know, sometimes some recent episodes can make you judgmental towards a person. But you know, if you give it time and think back, sometimes it can change into like, okay, I now understand where that person is coming from. So I think it's there in every situation, any relationship, workplace, in home, between spouses, with children, you know, everything, with devotees, you know, in every relationship I find that, you know, it's a fine balance, like, you know, and you have to make it you have to try and make a practice and an effort to try and not be judgmental. Like, you know, it's an effort.
And maybe if you can dig a little deeper in that thought, thank you for sharing. What would be the difference between disagreement and judgmental? Like if you tell me something and I don't agree with it, right? Does that constitute as being judgmental, or are the difference between the two situations?
No, I think there is definitely a difference. Disagreement, like, you know, I can have a different political view when compared to somebody else. But then saying that because of that person's political view, which is not very similar to mine, they must be a bad person, that's being judgmental. But being disagreement is, I like these kind of, what should I say, of a party. I like these kind of value system of a party versus the other party. And somebody else can say, no, my value systems align with somebody else. That's a disagreement. But just judging that this person is bad because of their convictions, which are different from mine, that's judgmental.
Thank you. I think that does catch the essence of it. Like when you were saying a political party, I was thinking of a personal situation that we had a family friend come and for lunch, and we were just talking, and then Indulekha mentioned that she had voted for somebody, and that person got very upset. Well, we are amongst friends. Indulekha said she voted.
No, don't.
No.
Okay, bad
she said
example.
she-
I shouldn't.
Yeah,
No
voted
need,
for somebody.
no need.
And then she got the other person got very upset, saying, "What kind of person you are? Why did you vote? And this and that, and you know." And she got so upset that she cut her visit short, and she was basically till the time she went, she was in a real bad mood there. And when Indulekha and I were talking about it, you know, we were a little bewildered. Firstly, we don't hold political views very strongly, and the second is that there's a difference between making these are the choices the person makes, and this is who the person is. If you conflate the two, then you are being unfair to the person, right? You know, just because you like gulab jamuns and I like rasgullas doesn't mean that you should think I'm a bad person.
Exactly. That's a better example. Both are wrong, both are sweet.
Both are sweet, right? But they're different, right? So you shouldn't think I'm a bad person, but there are people who will. Right? There are people who will, and that's where there lies the crux, that when people are unable to make this distinction between the views of a person and the person himself. And any other thoughts?
Yeah, I have a very practical experience. I don't know whether Piyali remembers this. So we were actually at Mayapur, and we had like elderly parents with us, and we wanted to go for Mangal Arati. And there's the proper way of going where you have to submit your shoes, cameras, not allowed, right? And then there was a shortcut which kind of was a much shorter walk. And since we had, but that was just for devotees. So other people are not allowed through there.
That side door.
The side door,
Yeah.
And it was open, and the devotees that stay there, they were kind of going through there, and we said, we have elderly parents, can we use this? And one guy said, no, that's not the policy. The other guy said, we chant 16 rounds a day. You guys don't. So no, you have to go through the proper entrance. So that was, I mean, the first answer I think was kind of
just a policy.
With the policy, but the second one I thought was a very judgmental statement.
And the result of that is that nobody benefits.
Yeah.
Neither the person who says,
Yeah.
nor the person who receives, obviously, and not the situation. None of it benefits. Any other thoughts? Yes, Prabhu?
Two examples I have, Prabhu.
Give one example.
Like some time back, I don't remember the situation details. I don't remember, but
Speak loudly. Ramkatha Prabhuji, can you
जरा हनुमान जी का रिश्ता हो
I know.
Oh, underneath.
I was seeking some advice with you, Prabhuji. Like you gave some advice. Internally, I was not convinced.
Yeah.
I couldn't, and it was hard to accept it.
Sure.
But the only reason I accepted is that Prabhuji told me he knows, although didn't understood fully. But actually, after a few months, I realized that this is what that day Prabhuji was saying. It actually took months, not few days. I just accepted because on the faith that you are telling for my good, and like that.
Thank you. So at least the advantage of accepting is that it keeps the channels open.
Okay.
It keeps the channels open. There's a potential of leveraging it later on.
Yes.
Yeah. Prabhu?
I think judgmental is kind of, without knowing the reality or without anything. You have already made up your mind, so that's kind of more judgmental. But once you meet a person or know the situation, you realize that you're wrong.
Yeah.
And most of the time, judgmental is kind of negative.
Yeah.
And disagreement is at least you have listened to, interacted, and then you disagree.
Yeah.
So that may not be. So these are the.
So like disagreement is like it can end with we can agree to disagree.
Right.
Or judgmental is it will end with something like don't confuse me with the truth.
Right.
I just want to
It's predetermined.
my aspect of the truth. I just want to be that. Yeah. Thank you. Aditi?
I was reading something today and I came across
Kishori Radha, can you please be loud?
I was reading something today and I came across this statement from Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada is speaking to Mother Jadurani, and he says, if you love someone, you like to hear them speak. And I was thinking about that, and I feel like a lot of if we hear someone speak, we may then have a window to disagree with them. But if we truly hear them speak, we will not be judging them. So what you were just saying, I was sort of connecting the two things, because I think listening, if we truly listen to the other person's perspective, we may not land up on a judgment. We may disagree with them, but we may not judge them.
Thank you. Interestingly, Indulekha and I were also listening to Jadurani's interview yesterday evening. Coincidence. He has so many stories about Prabhupada. Any other thoughts, Prabhu?
So I was thinking that what people may judge you about or what people may accept about you, it might depend a lot on where you are. Like there's sometimes a local culture in a certain community, whether it's in the devotee world or in the outside world. And, people might hold something against you in one place, but you go to another place and just the whole community vibe is different, and so certain things are not judged.
You're right. There's a fair amount of contextuality. And even like in the course of a day, in morning you're at work and evening you're at the temple, what may be acknowledged as praiseworthy in the evening may be cause for criticism in the morning, just because you're in a different setting.
Yes.
Right? At work, they would expect you to be more aggressive, to be more determined to get your point of view around. And as a devotee, the expectation is to be more encompassing, to be more polite. So, thank you. That's an excellent point. Simone?
I also feel, Prabhu, this is just my observation. I feel like people who are really grounded in their spiritual practice on a very high level or a very elevated level, really to the core, I think they tend to judge less rather than people who are not. And I've seen that personally also. Like who are really situated in that spiritual, just not saying it, but really like. I feel very, very less judgment and more acceptance towards it, is I can say about myself.
Thank you. I was listening to a lecture by Prashanta Mataji, and she was mentioning that neophytes means new fight every day. So actually, let me use that as a segue into another point I wanted to make, is that the purpose of the discussion, of course, is not just to understand, but also to see within us and see if we have that quality, if we want to redeem it, how to deal with it if we are the cause or whether we are at the receiving end of it. So, in the Nectar of Devotion, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is mentioned that there are 3 categories of devotees. Right? So there is the Kanishtadhikaris, the neophytes, the Madhyamadhikaris, and the Uttamadhikaris. And there are different criteria by which that advancement is measured. One of them is acceptance. So what is the main criteria of, or what is the main characteristic of the Kanishtadhikari, the neophyte? So if you were to summarize it, it would be my way or the highway. Yeah. So it's like if you are not following, and now we're talking more in the realm of practicing devotees, right? So just to establish that context. So it's more like if you're not practicing spirituality in exactly the same way as I am, there is some problem with you. Right? And that something may be one of many things. Right? If you don't chant your rounds in the morning, Prabhu, you don't chant 16 rounds in the morning? I chant my rounds. And my Prabhuji chants the rounds in the morning. Both of them missed it.
No, I heard it, Prabhu. Oh, not only that.
And it extends to other aspects also, right? How do you do your deity worship? There are so many aspects of life that comes, of a practice devotion, what you eat, when you chant, how you do deity worship, how do you offer the paraphernalia, do you start at the lotus feet, do you start around the body? There's so many details of it, my guru, your guru, second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, you know. So, if you're not doing exactly what I am doing, then you have to be wrong. Now, why is that important for somebody at that stage? Because their bhakti that itself is not strong. So the reason I'm saying is we have to look at it from both perspectives, from the receiving as well as the giving. Right? Because it's not that we are Uttamadhikaris, we are also practicing devotees. So we do it and we also receive it. So why do we do it? Because our bhakti itself is not very strong. So it's like there is a plant, and when it's a sapling, then it needs to have a very strong protection around it. Right? Otherwise, easy for it to go. It's like I was having this discussion with Smita, and I was telling her that stop taking shelter of YouTube for making spiritual advancements, right? Because otherwise, there are 20 million videos over there. Somebody will say one thing, somebody will say something else. They're all. It's difficult for us to determine. Some may be really sincere devotees. You know, some may be like there is one, and again because this is going on Facebook, I want to say, but there is some very famous Baba in India who very proudly says that I have never read the Bhagavad Gita, and I never plan to read the Bhagavad Gita because I don't want my opinions to be determined by somebody else. Now, in this case, the somebody else happens to be the personality of Godhead. Right? but that's his conception, that I don't want my opinions to be, and you know, and people clap when he says. So there are those kinds of people also, and there are obviously people who are very sincere, etc. But when we are at the stage that we are beginning our spiritual life, then it's important to travel the narrow path that is protected. That's the positive part of it. But it should not result in saying that anybody who is not following my narrow path is heading into oblivion. Okay? That's not the corollary for that. But the manifest quality of being judgmental is strongest amongst the neophytes because they have the weakest faith and the weakest knowledge. So when they see somebody else doing something differently, because their faith is weak, it becomes threatened. Now, what is the next stage in terms of advancement of devotees? We have the Madhyama Adhikaris. Now, what is the acceptance paradigm of the Madhyama Adhikaris? That they make distinction between three classes of people. They identify those who are Swajati, who have similar conceptions, friendly, favorable. They identify those who are more advanced. And then they identify those who are envious. And then based on that, they act in three different ways. That they will avoid the envious, they will associate with the friendly, and they will serve the more advanced. Right? For us, that is the perfect definition of acceptance. So even when the Madhyamas, they're avoiding the envious, they avoid it not from the perspective of condemning them. They avoid it from the perspective that this will impact my own bhakti. I remember earlier on when I had taken to the process, so I used to be like in a very like a preachy mode. So one of my colleague, good friend, I knew him from a long time. He's a Muslim, and then I started trying to make him like a devotee. And for a while he was okay. Then he started getting upset at me. And I guess the good part of it is that in order to, so I was reading the Bhagavad Gita. So in order to refute my point, he started reading the Bhagavad Gita, and he also started reading the Quran. So then he would come up and he would have this discussion. But obviously, because myself I was starting, so then it went to the point where he started blaspheming Krishna. I started blaspheming Hindus, and then at some point, at least we were mature enough to say, let's not talk about this. We can still stay friends, but that one has to have the potency. One has to have that conviction and faith before they can impact others. So in the case of a Madhyamadikari, they recognize where they are, and they recognize where the others are, and they act accordingly. But the main thing is that they act in all situations for the benefit of themselves and the others. Right? So this is what classically is called a win-win situation. They don't want to make it a win-lose or a lose-win situation. I win, you lose. Right? That is the neophyte kind of. But they want to make it a win-win. That like when you take to Krishna consciousness, some of them have had this experience that maybe your family members don't take well to it. Right? So now what's the best thing to do? You can talk to them, you can explain to them, but after some time, you have to make this determination that are you actually helping them make spiritual progress? Like you may quote the verses from the Bhagavad Gita and win all the arguments, but you will still lose because the other person will walk away resentful. He will not just resent you, he will resent the Bhagavad Gita, he will resent Krishna. So whereas the person earlier on maybe a little bit in a vague, ambiguous kind of way, being averse to Krishna, now he is in a more definitive way averse to Krishna. Thanks to you. So the nature of the Madhyamadikari is that they need to look at the win-win situation. That okay, if this person is not going to, or I don't have the ability to change this person's mind, then best is that we don't talk about it. Best is we keep our difference. And third situation, of course, is, which is fairly intuitive, that the person takes shelter of one who's more advanced. Right? So one is able to understand the finer aspects. Now, once you reach the stage of Uttamadikari, the one who are more advanced, their acceptance is universal. They are unable to have this. Their compassion is to the point that they are unable to make this distinction that I should be judgmental to this. In fact, they feel the opposite. They feel that the humility drives them to a point where they feel that everybody is more advanced to them. And if you take that trajectory further up, who is the most accepting personality in the universe, in all existence? Krishna. Right? So if you look at what we have done to Krishna, there are so many bad things he could do to us. Right? And he is definitely a lot more powerful than us. Right? If he wants, like they say, Rakhe Krishna Mare Krishna Rakhe Ke. Like if Krishna wants to harm you, who's there to protect you? But despite all the things that, we turn our back to Krishna, we take shelter in our senses, and there are some who even go much beyond that. Right? They overtly break the laws of nature, they overtly harm other living entities, etc. But it's not that Krishna is shooting bows and arrows at them or weapons at them, whatever. Krishna is still trying to redeem them. He's still trying to to protect them. He's still trying to create opportunities for them to one way or the other come back to him. Right? So that's at the top of the curve. There's Krishna, who does not reject anybody under any circumstances. Right? Now we are not Krishna, so we cannot be like that. We can aspire to be Madhyamas. We can aspire to develop this discrimination, and it's a quality that is it's difficult to. It's a quality that needs to be cultivated. So, like in the morning, Indulekha and I were talking about this topic, and at the end of it, we ended each one of us accusing the others that you're not accepting my point of view. Right? And so, so she had a slightly different perspective, and she said, "This is where you should accept mine," and I said, "You should accept yours." So after that, we stopped talking to one another. So it's something that it's easier said than done, right? It's a quality that you have to consciously cultivate. And as I mentioned earlier, and I'll end with that thought, that that the seeds of this is cultivated by the sincere practice of devotion. Now we need to meditate on this quality. Yes, making us aware of it helps also. It also helps when we are at the receiving end of it, right? So all of us have experienced situations where we feel judged by other devotees for different things, like as this and that, and time, place, circumstance, etc. So instead of reciprocating judgmental, with resentment, or judgmental with being judgmental, the best way is to reciprocate being somebody who is being judgmental with compassion. Like understanding that the root of a person being judgmental comes because of their own lack of conviction. Right? It comes from a platform of weakness, not strength, and then that changes the perspective. Okay, so I'll end over here and see if there's any discussions.
So, Prabhuji, coming back to the topic of being judgmental, so being judgmental also comes with over familiarity, or how much associated you are with somebody, right? And Prabhupada even used to say that, whoever is helping him closely, he didn't want him to be there for a very long time. He wanted, them to keep changing for the same reason. And even for sannyasis, they don't stay at one place for the same reason. They keep moving for the preaching. So is that something which we should think about, or we should practice, or is it, only for senior devotees, or how do we understand this?
Thank you. That's a good point. So it's more in the context of dealing with devotees who are at a different level compared to you. So the example that you gave was Prabhupada's disciples who were very closely working with him. The whole adage of familiarity breeds contempt. Right? They would see Prabhupada sleeping and waking and taking a bath, and the same disciples who at one point would see only Prabhupada sitting on Vyasta and giving classes, they were not able to handle that change, and so Prabhupada would not keep anybody for more than 6 months, just for their own protection. So yes, it's something that when we associate with senior devotees, does not necessarily mean that we avoid extended association or intimate association. What it means is that we are on guard from being overly familiar with them. And at least if we keep that guardrail within ourselves.
What is the root cause for being judgmental, like say? So if we know the root cause, we can do the kapha, the corrective reaction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
when I look at it, like the soul is eternal and pure, the body is like Achetan Jad, which is has no sentiency. Who is in between? Who is judgment?
Yeah. Thank you. We discussed this a little bit. One of the contributing factors to it is ahankar, is a false ego, which basically is so like you nicely said that there is the body and the soul. As long as we steer towards the soul, then we will manifest the qualities of the soul, and the soul is all good. And as we steer more towards the body, we will display the qualities of the material nature. And the ego is the one that connects the body and the soul. Right? So if you are able to dilute, so as I was saying that the process of bhakti helps over here, because bhakti actually helps convert our false ego into true ego. Right? That's why it is so effective. Like when I talked about the 3 stages of devotees and how their acceptance increases, the reason the acceptance increases is that bhakti is increasing. And as the bhakti increases, the ego reduces.
Sometimes in life, we need to do things even though we are internally not accepted, whether it is office or family circles. So, what things we can do and cannot do, and more than things, what aspects we need to keep in mind, because Prahlad Maharaj rejected what his father advised, don't chant or whatever. He rejected his idea, but we can't do because other person is not that bad. You know, so what aspects we need to keep in mind in doing or not doing things, irrespective of our internal acceptance.
Yeah. Thank you. It's a good question. So accepting and judgmental is more from how you treat the other person. Yeah, so whether you're at work or family or in a devotional environment, it is mostly centered around how you treat the other person. Right? Not so much on how you treat yourself. Right now, the point you're making is still valid, because they say that the root of good qualities begins with yourself. So before you can accept others, you have to accept yourself. Right? So what does that mean? That you have to accept yourself? It means the points that you're making, that you have to have a clear understanding of this is what works for me and this is what does not work. Right? So you go to an environment and the person says that in this job you need to meet with clients and sit and eat steak with them, and then you're like, I like the job but I don't like the job description, and I like the salary but I don't like the job description. Right? Or the person might say that you have to take them out for lunch. You can eat whatever you want to eat, but they will eat whatever they want to eat. Right? Now I know some devotees who have rejected jobs at the same time, saying that I don't, I would still be in a way participating in that. So it's a personal decision based on where you are in terms of your spiritual advancement, right? You should be able to answer this question that by doing this, will it help me make advancement in my spiritual life? Right? So let's assume I get a job which I know is a completely in a material environment, right? And then I say, no, I can't take the job because it's very, very materialistic. But then I start resenting the fact that I have to take a job that has a much lower salary. What does that mean? It means that I still have attachment to money. Right? Now I know it's not the best, it's not spiritual, but I also accept the fact that this is where I am. Right? This is my adhikar right now. Right? So one accepts oneself and one accepts the situation based on their adhikar, what they determine their adhikar is. That's why it's also important to be in the association of devotees. Because some, like they say, the eye cannot see itself. So good to be in the association of devotees that you can talk to, and they can tell, they can talk to, spiritual master. They can talk to you and tell you, this is your adhikar, this is what we feel would help you, and this is something. Because sometimes people make, like third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about Phalgu Vairagya, right? Premature renunciation.
Yes.
That externally they renounce, but internally they meditate on it. Right? And Krishna says, not a good idea. Okay? Now again, he's not saying that renunciation is bad.
Correct.
Right? He's always saying renunciation is good. Right? But he's saying worse than material enjoyment is renunciation by meditating on material enjoyment. Right? He puts that at the lower, in the lower category. And what's the difference? Where do you sit in terms of your consciousness, your advancement?
Thank you.
Yes,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Few thoughts are going on in the mind. When you talked about the examples from the Shastras of being judgmental or acceptance, my mind went to Srila Prabhupada. When he tried to start the movement in India, how it was not accepted and he did not get success. And then he just made a very difficult trip to North America and it was an instant success. And I was just thinking, like you explained, the devotee or the Krishna conscious way of looking at it and how you can use the situation to your advantage, how Krishna helps, right? That being judgmental and not getting the rejection could have, but he has the protection of his guru and the vow that he has taken, right? The instruction, and that got him instant success. And I was just trying to relate to our life, and like Mataji was saying, it's a every minute process. We get situations, people, etc., etc. But having the right knowledge, being in the right association, truly helps. That protection is very important in today's time.
very good. Yeah. Thank you for making this point. Prabhupada actually is he's a textbook case of the potency of acceptance. Right? That he came over here and then everything around him was contrary to what the Vedas say. Drugs, promiscuity, intoxication, so everything was there. Right? And Prabhupada accepted it but did not condone it. He did not say, okay, fine, go ahead and keep doing it. But he did not reject the person based on that, saying that because you are doing X, Y, Z, you are not fit to be a devotee, right? Or you are not fit to be a potential candidate, right? There's one time that, and Prabhupada's earlier disciples, they were also figuring things out. So Prabhupada told his disciples that, different places to preach. So one of his disciples, when he was in California, he took him to a nudist colony there. So the people there were, it was not a nudist, it was like a back to nature, but essentially people were living naked over there. And they would live in trees and stuff like that. And Prabhupada went there, he preached, and he came, and one of the person that he preached to later on became one of his leading disciples. And then he was in his memories, he was speaking, he was saying that I was standing naked in front of Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was talking to me like I was a spirit soul. Like he didn't even look at my body. He was saying I was trying to live that way to not be body conscious at a physical level. But then I saw that this person was completely not conscious of the body at a spiritual level. He didn't even care that I was wearing clothes or not wearing clothes. He preached to me and he came, and the person after Prabhupada joined the temple became one of his leading Sankirtan there. That's the power of acceptance. Now, it's not that Prabhupada said, okay, now live naked in the temple, right? So he still established whatever was right and wrong, but what opened the heart of that person? Right? The fact that, and that person was not alone, he was with his girlfriend, both of them were without clothes at the time, right? When, there. So that's the potency of acceptance demonstrated by exalted devotees. We can aspire. If we are not there, we can be aspired. We can aspire like a goal for us.
Right.
Sorry.
Prabhu, this might be a little bit of a revealing question on my part, but sometimes we are the harshest critics and judges of those who are living right next to us.
Yes.
And we want to show them the mirror, and we may not want to look in the mirror ourselves. Right? So we once had a seminar on humility by Mahatma Prabhu when we were living in Richmond, and one of my friends asked him this question at the end, that I can be humble in front of the entire world, but I cannot be humble with my husband. So I was just wondering, Prabhu, what are some best practices to cultivate this at home before we cultivate it in the larger body of devotees?
Thank you, Madhu. Very good question. So my response to this maybe could be in form of a question to you, that what is the need to cultivate this?
Let it be.
That pleases my ego a lot, Prabhu, that question, but I feel there's a need on my part, because I feel like sometimes in trying to convey a point, I can be harsher than I want myself to be. And I always am later thinking about, I could have conveyed this in a different way and perhaps it would have been received better. But in the heat of the moment, sometimes I can be more blunt and more judgy.
Yeah, and I think we all need that. Like it said, that the ones who are closest to us are perhaps our harshest critic, and they're also our most honest critic. Right? So others, they might not have that safety of relationship, shared values, shared life commitments. They may not have that safety net. So they would not be able to hold up the mirror as it is. And as far as spouses are concerned, they have that safety net, and the criticism that comes mostly comes from a good place. Right, so it helps there. And again, this is something that it's easier said than done. Like Indulekha and I, we keep having this exactly the same debate that you're kinder to other people than to me, right? And then you can extrapolate that into so many adjectives, right? But the fact is that it does nourish one's spiritual life, because nobody can hold a mirror as well as a spouse, as the spouse can. It's to our advantage to receive it and to act upon it. I'm not completely minimizing the point. You said that yes, sometimes the content can be delivered more palatably. Like what's the Prabhupada said? I forget it. Bruham Bruhasi. That he once criticized his disciples, right? So his disciples wrote in Back to God magazine, they wrote an article criticizing
Samati Maharaj.
Sumati Muraji, but not her specifically, but she followed somebody.
Okay.
Sumati Muraji, remember the lady who sent the Jalduta? She was a follower of I forget, she followed somebody, maybe it was
Pushti Marga or something. That's it.
not Pushti Marga, I forget, maybe less somebody, and they wrote an article in Back to Godhead criticizing them. Right. So she read the article and she wrote a letter to Prabhupada, and she was really upset about it. And Prabhupada told the disciples, don't write these kind of things. And they said, but Prabhupada, you said that to us. And Prabhupada actually told them that, right? So Prabhupada, you told that to us. And the Prabhupada said, yes, but that was you are my disciples, in an intimate setting. And then he quoted this, I forget the Sanskrit, but it said that the best truth is the one that is spoken palatably. Right? And if you cannot speak something palatable, better to not speak. Now, in a husband-wife situation, it probably results that there will be no speaking. Right? So we can't apply that. Prabhupada also said, this is not Prabhupada. Radha Govind Maharaj said this, that in one of the saptas he was doing, he would say that discussions between husband and wife are like pre-monsoon clouds. So the pre-monsoon clouds, they're big and dark, there's a lot of thunder, lightning, there's no rain. So he would say that how in his village, the husband and wife, they would quarrel, and then the husband would say, I'm taking sannyas. And he would go away from the house, and the wife is saying, I'm going to jump into the well. And then she will run towards the well. And then the family member, somebody is holding back the husband, don't take sannyas. Somebody is holding back the wife, don't jump in the well. And then evening the wife is making puri and the husband is sitting and eating. Right? So it's like the pre-monsoon thunder. There's a lot of thunder, lightning, no rain. Right? So that's the nature of interaction, husband and wife. The husband says that, okay, just for this I'm leaving you, right? And then he says, what's for dinner after that? So, so in that context, yesterday we were actually in a program that was focusing more on husband-wife dynamics, and in devotees, the strongest anchor for a robust marital relationship is that the husband wants the wife to make spiritual advancements, the wife wants the husband to make spiritual advancements. Right? So the center is Krishna. Right? Prabhupada said that if the wheel has one center, it will rotate smoothly. If it has multiple centers, it will go double, right? So if the center is not Krishna, then it could be me and you, then there are two centers, or it could be so many other centers, me, my family, your family, this, right? And then the wheel will be troublesome for them. So that's the power of making spirituality our primary meditation. That things that get aligned. I'll give one last personal example and then stop there. Sometimes we have Guru Maharaj come and live at our house, and while he's living at our house, so when spiritual master is living, lot of services, right from morning to evening. Cook this for him, clean, etc. And between Indulekha and I, it's hectic but also very harmonious. Because we divide the services, you cook, I'll serve, you clean, I'll do this. So very tiring, very hectic, get up early in the morning, sleep after he does, but very harmonious also. Right? After he goes, we start quarreling, but while he is there, everything is, because he is at the center at that time. Right? Now, he stays for a few days, so we are able to experience both aspects of it. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. So we'll end over here. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
I don't hear